Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our lunchtime webinar. This is our second webinar recently. The first one was breakfast, so I doubt we'll do a dinner one, but we will figure out what meal works best. I'm Christine Quinn, the president and CEO of WIN Women in Need. And today's webinar is going to focus on a very important part of the work that we do at WIN, the work we do with children and young adults. Why is that important? Having been a homeless child is one of the key indicators of whether or not you will be a homeless adult. And all of us, staff, volunteers, all of you as donors and board members and junior board members, the partners, our goal is to break the cycle of homelessness in an intergenerational way. That's the way, only real way we stop a revolving door out of transitional housing and really end this crisis. Really important to know that the contracts that we have with the city focus on the adult in the household, what's called the head of household. The contracts do not focus on the children because the city isn't really engaged in ending this crisis. They're engaged in managing it. And I think that is one of the main flaws we see in the city and in the city's plan and response to homelessness, not just this administration, but really every administration. Every night at WIN, we house 5,000 people. About half of them are children. And right now, in that 2,200, 2,500 number of children, approximately 700 are migrant children, those who have come with their parents seeking asylum, who were unceremoniously sent to New York on buses by the governor of Texas. To put it in perspective, last night, tonight, tomorrow night, there are more children in shelter than there are seats in the Barclays Arena where the Nets play. That's an enormous number. And that's an enormous number of children who have suffered the trauma of being in shelter. Even though WIN runs outstanding shelters, it's traumatic. The trauma of domestic violence, the trauma of being evicted, the trauma of being shuttled from school to school to school. So what we do at WIN, as part of our holistic wraparound way to win model, is deliver services to children that are not significantly part of our contract with the city, that are expanded, enhanced, and exist because of donations from individuals like you, the corporations you work for, or the foundations you work for. Right now, given the large number of asylum-seeking children we have at WIN, that financial support is even more critical. Because a child who's in shelter, they might be able to get, some other type of services through the city. But that's far more limited for these children who have yet to gain any recognized legal status in this country. So this webinar, as the number of families in shelter and children in shelter goes up, even beyond the asylum seekers, because of the end of the eviction moratorium after the peak of COVID, and because rents continue to skyrocket, it makes the timing of this webinar even more important. Now, I'm going to turn this over to some members of WIN staff and a consultant that we work very, very closely with at WIN. I have to tell you, we are, I think people throw the words, it's just my opinion, blessed around a little too easily. But we are blessed at WIN to have this team because they are individuals who break their backs every day to get our children into college, to make sure they go to college with all the supplies they need, to make sure our camp isn't just, I don't even know if people play with Play-Doh anymore, but just making things out of Play-Doh. It's taking great trips. it's doing engineering, it's building volcanoes, it's simulcasting from one shelter to the other. They make sure the little ones are engaged constantly. And I have to say, one day I was at our shelter, in one of our shelters in East Harlem, and a little girl, she was little, she was probably 2, maybe 1. She was frantic because mommy had left. Mommy had to go to a job training program. Mommy had left. And this was a domestic violence family. And she was frantic. And they were trying to get her to lay down on those little, like little itty bitty, they're kind of a cross between a mat and a bed. And I sat with her for a little bit, but I had to go. And the staff said, don't worry, we'll stay with her. And I knew they would stay with her. They would stay with her till mommy got there. And they would stay even longer if mommy needed them to help calm the child down. And that's what we do with our children at WIN. We stay with them. We're there with them. Because of your generosity, we meet their needs and we show them that things like work and college is easily within their grasp. So I'll turn it over now to Tiffany and Tammy and Sasha and Whitaker, and really look forward to a robust conversation and Q&As at the end. And thank you for having your lunch with us today.
Well, thank you, everyone. Chris, I think that was such an amazing introduction. I think I couldn't have said it better. My name is Tamara Ortiz. I am the former assistant president for support services, and I am currently consulting with WIN. And today marks 4 weeks that I've separated from WIN as an employee. And I think that there is no better way to reconnect. I will be preaching today because I'm full of a joy of reconnecting. But I think one of the important mentions and highlights that I'd like to give Chris is the fact that she considered our children to be clients as well. And I think that when an organization and a provider is willing to look at our children as clients, that's the holistic and wraparound services that our mission and vision connects us to. I'm going to take a moment to really speak on the highlight of trauma-informed care. There's 3 content experts that were my directors and are now my friends. But they will be speaking directly on the experiences day to day that happen in programs. When you speak about a trauma-informed care program, it's a program that has been built with intention. It has been built with the intention of recognizing and responding to the signs, symptoms, and the risks that trauma has to children and their families. Families that have experienced trauma and toxic stress. There's no bigger circumstance than really dealing with toxic stress and ongoing trauma. I'll give a quick example. I think Chris mentioned about our asylum seeker children. And I happened to sit in a conversation where a child had to endure the conversation and the journey of how a family had to migrate to come to this country, all the different stops and sacrifices that the families made for their children to come. But when I had a moment to speak to that child, the child was able to really express to me the gratefulness of having arrived to WIN. And that all happens when you create an environment that has the quality of a healing environment, an environment that understands the trauma and evolves with it, an environment that trains leadership and staff and external partners like what's happening today to understand the trauma and be sensitized to integrate the knowledge about trauma and adversity into our policies, procedures, and practices. There's no better way than to be in tune with how trauma impacts our children. And most importantly, avoiding re-traumatization. One of the things that we've developed at WIN is the language that we use when we communicate with our children and our families. There's one instrumental element that needs to be built immediately, which is trust. Parents that are reunifying with their children or have gone through many circumstances may feel very insecure about leaving their children with individuals that they just met or providers that they did not anticipate would have these services, and these services that have been disconnected from their common community. So from the moment that we meet our families, we make sure that we give their dignity at the moment, and we let them know that our intention is to support their children and develop milestones with them. Many first times happen in our program. The first time a child takes their step, the first time a child says their first word, maybe a lost tooth, maybe the first time they ride a bike or visit Central Park and get to know their communities. And that is a privilege that we have to do that and honor that with our families together. One of the things that is most important in regards to establishing a rich environment is to create engagement and family engagement with meaningful experiences so that together we're collaborating on developing our relationship as a unit and also really creating individualized planning for our children. Our programs provide care that is sensitized not just to the individual child, but also to the entire family unit. You know, making sure that we're sensitive to the racial, ethnic, cultural backgrounds, gender identity. What more can we not acknowledge of being inclusive, of day-to-day honoring the differences that they have and making sure that we're a part of that? You know, there's always a pillar of reminding ourselves how important and how we strive to bring goals. And the content experts will speak on how we incorporate STEAM and STEM into our programs depending on their age level. We'll speak on how we think out of the box and we're not just a traditional model. We have to very much be in untraditional elements because we need to be ready and willing to change and be flexible with the individuals that we serve. I think that now is the time to surrender the baton to the three individuals that make me feel so proud, that are exactly what Chris mentioned, the ones that constantly think out of the box, are in tune with the clients, and have thought about ways of incorporating learning loss opportunities so that our children can continue to grow, not just academically, but emotionally and socially. These individuals are the ones that go down to eye level, speak to them, go on trips to college, share their own personal experiences, and really make the experience at WIN a memorable experience. So if I haven't said it before, thank you, team. I'm going to surrender. The first individual will be Tiffany Malkusi.
Thank you, Tammy. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm absolutely humbled by the introductions from Chris and Tammy. And I'm grateful to have this platform to share all the great work that my team, I can't do without my team, that my team absolutely implements on a daily basis. My name is Tiffany Malkuzi, and I'm the Director of Children's Services. We offer free childcare open to all our transitional housing families. All of our classrooms are run under the Department of Health with a permit and a license. We operate daily from Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, and we have extended care if needed up until 6 p.m. Our age groups range from 3 months to 5 years old, and we have a daily capacity from 8 children to 16 children according to the site. We provide services to working families, appointments, respite care, emergency drop-offs, and socialization blocks. We currently have 5 active locations with 3 pending, awaiting a permit approval. We provide a nurturing environment for infant, toddlers, and preschools to reach developmental milestones. Our holistic approach, we cater to the entire family. We have several siblings that we share with recreation. As a team, we make sure these children have everything that they need. We provide a trauma-informed care approach. We support with separation anxieties, and support with social emotional learnings. We encourage growth and independence with very intentional choice activities led by the children. We build and support their cognitive and fine motor skills with kinetic stand, Play-Doh, like Chris said, and safety scissors, which build strength in their hands. Our daily schedule begins with Kids' Choice Reward. We have all our centers open. Kids are able to choose where they want to go as they walk in, to provide them the independence and the choice of what they want to do to start off their day and have them very comfortable in their environment. We then go into breakfast, circle time, lesson plan activities, which are STEM-based, lunch, nap time, snack, music and movement, outdoor play, and community walks. Our classrooms are set up in centers, which include dramatic play, dress up, play kitchen, which sparks imaginations and friendships on a daily basis. I sometimes walk into make-believe breakfast and I sit with the kids and I enjoy it. We have arts and crafts, library, and cozy corners. Our daily lesson plans are age-appropriate STEM activities. What does that look like for little ones? Our science can range from what is matter, watching an ice cube melt on a hot floor during the summer. Technology, we have interactive activities such as Grace's Corner and Brainy Babies. Engineering, building with wood blocks or magnetic connectors. Our art includes expressive easel painting with our little smocks and art hats. Our math includes shapes and countings. We serve meals 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and snack. Through the Department of Education, we find that it's important for children to have daily nutritional meals in order to be able to function highly as little learners. We have 1% milk and water offered daily throughout all programs. Our meals include a protein, dairy, fruit, and a grain with meatless Mondays. Our Camp Win trips include Puppet Works, Slow Mo Institute, Prospect Park, Hayden Planetarium, Hall of Science, Green Meadows Park, Imagination Playground, Transit Museum, Ice Cream Museum, the neighborhood library and firehouse. You'll be amazed with how they are very receptive when we are on our community walks and we walk into the fire department. They will stop whatever they're doing to give us a tour, and the kids love jumping on the fire engines. My favorite place to go is the Brooklyn Children's Museum. Their Totally Tots program is everything in a toddler and a preschooler's world. Everything is under 3 feet tall, so we as adults enter their world. The kids love to play in the dramatic play puppet area, and especially the water. We're excited to acknowledge Dr. Seuss's birthday, which is tomorrow. We have a host of events planned. We have teachers that are, they have bulletin board contests, and each site has special events in order to honor Dr. Seuss's birthday. We've had many linkages with the public library. Our teachers were actually offered a paid weekend opportunity to be able to host and teach the circle time on Saturdays and Sundays. And we're happy and honored that they'll be starting to do that this spring. When it comes to our end of having to transition children to external childcare programs, head teachers every spring support with the application process for our 3 and 4-year-olds. We help them build the confidence to be able to transition out of our programs into external childcares. We offer support with the application for universal pre-K in our neighborhoods, and as they transition into their permanent housing, support as much as we can with childcare in their neighborhood. As we say at the end of circle time, thank you for lending me your ears. At this point, I'm going to pass the baton from Tammy to myself, to my colleague and co-director, Sasha Njoku. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sasha Njoku, and similar to Tiffany, I am supporting WIN's families with eliminating one of the biggest barriers to financial stability, childcare. Here at WIN, we offer after school and out of school programming to ensure that parents may secure employment and housing with peace of mind, knowing that their child is in a safe environment with nurturing adults. But we go above the call of duty. Our youth not only have a learning environment where they can complete homework and socialize with their peers and receive a warm meal, but we also provide access to world-class academic enrichment programming. Our academic STEAM partners include project-based engineering, ceramics, music production, and digital animation. We also offer off-site trips, which is really fun. We call it Camp WIN. And we frequent places such as museums, zoos, adventure parks, and art spaces. We just recently we're on the heels of our midwinter recess Camp WIN season, and the highlight was taking kids across every single WIN site to see The Lion King on Broadway. Needless to say, the kids are still talking about it. But we also recognize the importance of social emotional learning, and we infuse all of our programs with trauma-informed care. So our activities also include arts therapy with our partner counseling in schools. We do music with the Brooklyn Conservatory of Music, physical fitness with Dance Wave. And all of these activities are affirming of our youth's identity by fostering free creative expression. Additionally, we offer vegan-based culinary programs because we understand that communities affected by poverty do not have equitable access to healthy food or nutrition education. We truly take a holistic approach to meeting the needs of our children and our family. It's also important that we honor the experiences of transient populations. So we not only offer project-based programming because it's a widely promoted approach to learning, but because we understand that our youth may not have the experience of continuity. So we allow them to keep any piece of work that they create in our workshops as a memento. Approximately 2,000 children are present in our shelters, but we also understand that kids, that our families may want to pursue external programs. So we offer them that support. Our goal is to make sure that while our children are in shelter, that we address the achievement gap. We are guided by the data that says that children who are experiencing homelessness are at a greater academic disadvantage, even compared to their counterparts who are living at or below the poverty line, but not experiencing homelessness. We also take it a step further. I partner with my colleague, Whitaker Wright, who is on this call, to provide college and career readiness as the next step and a big component, a crucial component to ending generational poverty. I will have Whitaker take it from here to talk about our amazing college and career programming.
Thank you, Sasha. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Whitaker Wright, and I'm the Director of Income Building for WIN. And not only do we provide employment, educational, and vocational services to our adults, but we also provide it for our youth and young adult population. We provide career exploration, as well as Sasha said, college and career readiness. One of the main purposes of working with youth at this age is to really gear them for the future. So some of the workshops that we provide for them are financial literacy workshops and programming for the youth to learn about what is credit, prioritizing spending, how to save money, budgeting, so they can go out there into the work world and be able to save in the future. The career exploration program with the young adult population is very, very important to gear them in the right direction. So by doing that, we provide career panels with many organizations and companies to really teach the youth about this is how we did it. This is the educational path that we went to, so they can learn more how to get to that next level and to get to that pathway. is very important at a young age because we work with the population between the ages of 14 and 21 years old to provide that direction and career readiness. We also provide college tours for our young people. We've worked with both the SUNY and CUNY schools, colleges, to provide both virtual and in-person college tours to give our young adults the guidance to where they want to go and what career path they want to take. We also provide in-person workshops such as CPR training for those who want to be in the medical field. We also provide trainings within first aid if they want to be an EMT. These trainings are important to kind of give our young people the guidance of what they want to do in life. When we do our financial literacy programming, the main purpose of it is also to learn about wealth creation, how to save for the future for their families as well. By providing also with college tours, our internships that we work with organizations to give our young people guidance of what work life is like. It is not easy, definitely being in shelter and completing high school and completing college, but we support them in many ways. We provide tutoring for our young people. We provide counseling programs when they're struggling to really service them in a way that they can succeed. I'm happy to say that last year we had 39 of our high school seniors graduate and go to college. Now, that's a significant number to me because it is not easy going through and completing high school and going to college and shelter. It's not easy, but it's an accomplishment that we support, and we provide them services to support them in their college, whether it's tutoring, whether it's one-on-ones, because it's a difficult transition from high school to college. So one thing I wanted to share with everyone is how would I define success for our young adult program? I would define it simply as an individual, a young person graduating from high school and then getting a career path, whether it's graduating or going to college or getting a trade, a skill set so that they can succeed in life. I consider that a success. And one success I did want to share with you all is a young lady that graduated from high school and was able to get accepted into NYU on a full scholarship. And she was the first person in her family to go to college. And I think that's just a tremendous accomplishment. And she is majoring in her bachelor's degree is going to be in art because she loves art. And I think it's tremendous. And one of the things that we do with our young people is, besides career exploration, is really cultural enrichment. We take them on trips. We recently took them on a trip to MoMA for the arts. We recently had an individual that was teaching our students about dance, and he's able to get into a show, Chicago, and we were able to have individuals go to that musical and get backstage passes and actually see how the production is like. So these things are just very, very important and very enriching to our population, and I think it's critical. So that's how I would define success with our young adult program. And now I will pass it on to Chris or Tammy for any other further questions.
Yep, thank you. Thank you guys very, very much. We're now going to take questions. We've had questions coming in throughout the process. So there was a first question got was, how do moms qualify for our help? So the city of New York is one of the few jurisdictions in the country where the homeless must be housed, right? It's a court case, it's a ruling. Keep it in mind, because there's discussions by some people we disagree with about repealing that. That said, you go to the city to intake in the Bronx and you present yourself that you need shelter, that you're homeless. Once you go through that process, you get sent to a shelter. About 12% of all the homeless families with children get sent to a WIN shelter. Once you walk in the door of the WIN shelter, you are qualified for all of the services you just heard about and other services that are specific for adults. Another question was, what percentage of the women in the city do we serve? I don't know out of the whole city, but there's approximately 60,000 homeless individuals who are part of homeless families with children, and we house fluctuates 11 to 12% of those families. I just want to note that the things that we are talking about, those are things that are not, that Tiffany, Sasha, and Whitaker and Tammy are talking about, are not necessarily things that are funded by the city. And all of the things like the tours cost money. We're going to other not-for-profits, right? And we're buying Broadway tickets. We need those funded. The institutions give us a break, but it is not for free. And in Whitaker's, success story of folks who, get into college, think of it. If we had $20,000 more, that might cover the cost of all of the books that the children have to buy when they go to college. Because most scholarships don't include that type of a thing. There's a question about how long it takes kids to access the programs. And again, it's immediate. Now, I will say, sometimes when mom comes in, she's had so many negative things happen to her. And she's had so many people who were there to help not be helpers at all and really take advantage of her. So when we say, hey, we have childcare, you're going to meet with your case manager now. Let's take your child to childcare so they don't, have to hear everything that's going on with the case manager. A lot of times mom won't say yes, but we work with her. We don't blame, we don't shame, we accept where she's at. And boy, that first time she says yes, it's like the dam has broken. And then the child will be signed up for things they're not even qualified for because, they're too young. So, I'll tell you just one story about a child we worked with a mom. She was kind of agoraphobic, but not really agoraphobic. It just, the outside world had been bad to her. And she was in East New York and she had a little baby and she had to go out, right? The baby had to go to the doctors and stuff. So we didn't want that child not to get what they needed medically. So we worked with mom. And sometimes they'd step outside the door, her and our staff. Then they'd take the elevator. Then they'd go outside the building. Then they took the subway together. And eventually mom was able to get the baby to all the well baby care that baby needed, which is just another example of how we take care of our children. Sasha, there is a question for you. What are some of the challenges kids in your age range face?
Sure. So my program serves school-age children, ages 5 through 17. So K through 12. And some of the issues come up are in line with the program services that we offer to address those issues. For example, if kids may have frequent interruptions to the school year, our parents may need to go to an appointment to secure housing, an apartment tour, whatever it may be, and the schedule doesn't align with the school schedule, their apartment viewing or that job interview may not align with the school schedule. So, kids who are experiencing homelessness disproportionately are impacted by absenteeism. And so again, that's where we come in to provide that service, to work hand in hand with case managers to say, hey, if mom, what time is that appointment? How can we step in? Do we need to open our after school program a little earlier so that child can come in and have access to services and familiar faces and have a place to feel safe? Also, in light of the pandemic, where collectively our society felt isolated, that was a double whammy for our families who are experiencing homelessness. So one of the key components of the work that we do in our after school and out of school programming is socialization. We also do multi-site trips to ensure that kids know that they're not only children experiencing homelessness in that shelter, but this is a pervasive issue, and they're able to build connections with kids from across the city where WIN shelters exist. And then also access to high quality programming. Our parents don't necessarily have the time to figure out the right after school program or the right academic enrichment partner. And so that's where we come in to lift that heavy burden from our parents and connect them to those robust academic experiences that I mentioned earlier. And then also behavior interventions. As I mentioned before, our parents are busy. This is no doubt probably the most chaotic experience that they'll ever have in their life. And so they may not always be attuned to some of the behavior interventions that kids need. And so that comes up in our programs. So we are truly an interdisciplinary team. We're working hand in hand with case managers, program directors, and even school guidance counselors to make sure that we are working in partnership with all the key stakeholders to make sure that that child receives whatever behavioral supports, therapeutic supports that they need to be successful in school.
Thank you, Sasha. We had a question about what's the average length of stay at Wynn, and also what happened during COVID. So the average length of stay decreased recently at Wynn, which is a great thing, from 15 months, where it had been holding steady, to 11 months. Why did it decrease? About 2 years ago, Wynn led a very aggressive advocacy campaign at City Hall in the last year of the de Blasio administration. Right now, always in New York, there's a voucher you can get that'll help pay for your permanent affordable housing. And forever, it was $1,500 a month for a family of 4. Now, I was pretty sure that would get you nothing in the city of New York, but Street Easy did a study for us, and there was actually 0 neighborhoods in the city of New York where $1,500 was the median area rent for a family of 4. We successfully passed legislation that actually Mayor de Blasio didn't sign. Mayor of New York has a pocket acceptance versus a pocket veto. We won't go into that, but nonetheless, it is the law of the city of New York, and it raised the voucher to start to $2,200 a month, and then incrementally it goes up every year. There are 36 neighborhoods in the city of New York that have an area median rent of $2,200. Rarely do you, and I say this as somebody who knows a little bit about passing laws, rarely do you pass a law that, boom, you see an effect. 15 months to 11 months, boom, we saw an effect. Now, you may be thinking as a donor, okay, but do they come back to shelter? For a number of years in a row, we had a percentage of 91% of folks who we helped move out. A year later, we're still not in shelter, still living independently. That has gone up to 95% of those we move out of shelter are still housed independently a year later. I just want to make a note about the length of stay decrease and the legislation that as it relates to Wynn's advocacy. Tomorrow at the New York City Council, the council is passing a law that Wynn authored that mandates the city provide funding for mental health services at family shelters. I bet you thought that already existed, but it does not. And that's a very, very exciting thing. And it looks like Mayor Adams is going to sign. I also wanted to underscore advocacy, because that affects our children, right? Moms getting out of shelter earlier affects our children. Our advocacy program gets no government money. Very hard to get corporate money for something like that. So that is an area where your donations targeted towards advocacy could really help end the crisis of homelessness in an intergenerational way. COVID, obviously it hurt every family. But as Sasha and others have said, homelessness and poverty, it's a disease of isolation. Poverty is a disease of isolation. So then you add in, we had to isolate the trauma spiral. The folks who work in Wynn's transitional housing and in our supported housing were essential workers. They had to be there every day, and they were. They made sure that we created a remote program for our children. The city of New York promised children in shelter cellularized iPads so they could keep up with their schoolwork. They said we were the priority. 2 weeks into remote schooling, our children had not gotten iPads. WIN advocated, we got a cover story on the New York Times, and then children in shelter got their iPads. And Tammy and the rest of the staff every night would leave a note on a family's door about what was going to be taught the next day, what they should be prepared for, and a non-nutritious snack, which I appreciate, to encourage the children. Now, I also want to note, we had about 250 families at WIN who were essential workers. They're essential workers, but they're living in shelter. We had to create remote schooling for those children on site because no parent was there to stay with them. They had to go to work. But let me also throw it over to the team to tell us a little more about what you did during COVID.
Hi, I just wanted to, I'm sorry, because this really did spark something in me. So during COVID, we had to be very innovative. We really didn't receive any direction from, DOE, schools. When it came to childcare, there were a lot of childcare providers that had to suspend services and close. That did not happen at WIN. We remained open daily. We served children. We essentially became essential workers caring for children of essential workers. So we had to make sure we were there every day. The team met, we strategized. WIN provided PPE items such as face masks. Face masks, of course, protected us. What happens is children learn how to speak by watching our mouths. They learn how to form their words. We had to wear masks and become very creative of how we were going to make sure that didn't fall between the cracks. Along with face masks, PPE, we received the plexiglass. Teachers in classrooms would speak through the plexiglass so that children were able to see their mouths in order to learn how to form words. The way that we all came together between recreation, income building, the entire team, we joined forces. When it came to me personally with my child and homeschooling, I know the problems that I had. So I knew families had issues. We had to come together to find out and strategize ways that we were going to support our kids and programs.
I think some of the ways that we were also innovative in supporting during COVID was that we were listening and in tune, and we were going through some of the same experiences and sensations that our clients were going through. So we were really intentional about listening to each other and the struggles that we were facing and knowing that our clients were facing too. So what many times we did, those individuals that we can no longer serve because they were not essential workers and we had to modify the number of children served to protect the environment, we brought programs to them. So we did remote learning where teachers did art activities and parents can engage through their cell phones, or we lent laptops or tablets. We also did reading corners and did book fairs where children can come down and really utilize their imagination. And I think those were some of the ways that were really important. We also did wellness checks. We went and called on a regular basis to see how things were going. So we became part of their environment and let them know. One unique thing that I didn't experience was when I did invite one of the children to a virtual engagement. What he said to me was, Miss Tammy, how dare you ask me to be virtual when I know you're right downstairs? I want to see you. And so we decided to do almost like a mobile program where the children can take the actual STEM kits with them or stop at a kind of drive-by program where they can see their staff and feel connected, but yet keep the safety measures in place so that we didn't disconnect our relationships. Again, all tying in tune to a trauma-informed program.
So we're going to hear from Sasha, and then I'm just going to wrap it up, and we're going to thank you all and have you go back to work. But just we're going to hear from Sasha, and then I'm going to wrap it up.
Just to echo what Tiffany mentioned and what Tammy mentioned, this was truly a collaborative effort across supportive services and with our program services team. For our school age children, our youth development specialists really had to make sure that they were in tune with the curriculum, understood what the expectations were when it came to remote learning, and in some respects became co-teachers for many of our young people. So we were actively on those Zoom calls, making sure that we were paying attention and that children were engaged and following along. We also had to support parents who were unexpectedly overwhelmed with navigating the technology of remote schooling. So helping them figure out Google Classroom, something as simple as like how to figure out to show that their child was present for attendance, Classroom Dojo, and the myriad of classroom software that our parents had probably heard of for the first time when remote schooling came along. So that is just another way that we had to navigate a truly complex time.
Thank you all very much for your presentations and more importantly for your work. Thank you everybody for joining us on this call today. You know, I really believe the more knowledge our donors and supporters have, the better off we are at WIN, because not only will you dig deeper into your pockets and pocketbooks, you can be our ambassadors. You can be our ambassadors on social media when you're reading things in the press. You can be our ambassadors when you're in your own child's school. You can be our ambassadors when you're at events or cocktail parties or with your friends. Or if you're thinking of joining a board or a junior board, hopefully we will be on the top of your list. I do want to leave you with a little bit of another list if I can. We mentioned before, a donation of increasing your donation by $20,000 would allow us to help all of the kids going to college get the books that they need to buy. A donation of $10,000 would help us be able to buy books that children could take with them, not just the ones they read in the library, in our daycare centers or in our rec room. $10,000 could help us buy Legos for our entire system. Legos are very, very expensive, like crazy talk. Expensive, but very, very good for STEM because of engineering. There probably would be some other toys in that as well. An additional donation of $5,000 could help us do even more trips to Broadway, to museums, to the Intrepids, to places like that. And remember, when our children go to those places, they see artists who look like them. They're told about artists who look like them. And it's oft said, if you don't see it, you don't know that you can be it, whether that's a stagehand or the star of the show. So that makes a very, very, very big difference. In our advocacy world, a $5,000 contribution would help us run a social media campaign to help pass even more legislation. So those are some areas where you could help us by expanding your donation, help us make sure our children really get what they need. And if for some reason you've hit it big this year, a $50,000 contribution would help us hire additional social workers who were targeted just at children's needs. All of these are tax deductible. So I hope you go out there and have a great day and a great rest of your week. Next week is our impact party, our junior board. If you're interested in coming, let us know. Thank you again. And we'll have a webinar on another topic very soon. Tiffany, Tammy, Sasha, Whitaker, thank you very much.